Hey friends, welcome to Car Racing. In today's video, we are going to have a look at JSON, which is a very important part of programming, configuring data, and all those kind of stuff. Because we are going to have a look at key value pairs, strings, numbers, booleans, arrays, objects, all this stuff. And JSON is a very important topic because it's used in a lot of places. For example, when you work with APIs, when you create an API, if you had watched my Express video, you know we create an API and we send and receive data in JSON. And also in Microsoft Azure, for example, you create ARM templates. They're also in JSON, and there are also many other places where JSON is used. So in this video, we are going to have a look at JSON. Let's get started now. I think you're not subscribed. Make sure to subscribe before we start. Thank you for subscribing if you did, and let's start right now.
So to get started, let's go through this quick presentation that I created. It's just on how JSON works, what is JSON, and also a couple of things like that. So what is JSON? JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's a way to store data. You can tell it like that. We store it in different objects, and it's like having built-in support by a lot of programming languages. So if you're creating an application using something like Python, Go, or JavaScript, then you can import all these JSON data from a JSON file because these languages have built-in support to JSON. And also it's used in a lot of places like the Kube API server in Kubernetes, and also Microsoft Azure uses JSON. Like we create the templates, ARM templates, right? Even that's with JSON. And also, if you use VS Code, you know that you'll have a settings.json file, right? Well, that's also a JSON file. So all the data is stored in that JSON file. Next, how does JSON work? We use key value pairs to store our data in JSON. So there's going to be a key, for example, name, and you can have a value for that. For example, Nasil, it's my name. So you could have different keys and values. So you could have like a full object of a person, and you could have a name of Nasil, an age of the age 13, for example, and you can give all the data like that. And that's how key value pairs work. That's how JSON works. And JSON is kind of similar to other languages of this sort, like YAML or XML. And also, we store this in a .json file. So the extension of the file should be .json. And this is a sample JSON file. So this is how it looks like. We have some keys in the left before the colon and the value in the right, and the keys are wrapped in double quotes. I'll just show you an example soon in VS Code. And like there are different data types also, like string, number, boolean, and decimal is just the same thing as number. It's just the same data type. Okay, anyways, let's jump into VS Code and start to write some code. So I've opened up VS Code in here. I have also opened up a folder in here called JSON. So you can just create a new file, and I'm just gonna name it JSON. And don't forget about the .json extension that I told. Just have to suffix, I guess, JSON at the end. Hit enter. So you have JSON.json. You can give any name for the file, but the extension should have a .json extension. Yeah. So to get started, we must first wrap the whole file in two curly braces. So whatever we write in a JSON file, they're gonna be wrapped inside two curly braces. You can hit enter, and you'll see that there's a small indentation that VS Code keeps for us, which is good. Like it's like a good practice to keep indentations in our JSON file. And if you're wondering why my brackets are yellow color in here, if I have more brackets inside, you'll see the color changes, right? That's because I have an extension called Bracket Pair Colorizer, which is very cool. Like it makes it more easy to identify the same brackets. So if I have a lot of brackets in here, I'll be able to identify by the colors of the brackets. So I can just go to the extensions and I can install this. I'm using the Bracket Pair Colorizer 2, and it's also a very popular extension. You can see 3.0 point, wait, 3 million, more than 3 million, 3,040,000 downloads. That's a lot of downloads. So let's just close that off. So as I told, it's like key value based. So you're gonna have a key at the left and a value at the right. So when you type the key for any JSON thing, you just wrap them in double quotes. So for example, if this is a name, I can give name, then I give a colon outside of the double quotes, and I give the value for it. For example, Nasil. So this is just a JSON file. Like this is correct JSON, right? Because you have a key in here and you have a value at the other side, and you have a column separating the key and the value. And if you're wondering why there's double quotes around the value. It's not there all the time, but it's there here because this is a string. If it was a number, you would not have double quotes around. For example, if this was an age, then instead of this, you won't have 13 like this. Instead, you would remove the double quotes from there and just have 13. Because when we write numbers, or if you use booleans, arrays, objects, we'll come to that soon, then we don't need to wrap them in double quotes. So that's one thing you can make note of. So let's get back the name and set it to my name. Next, we are going to have a look at the next data type, which we just now covered after the strings. Strings are just text, normal text. The next one is numbers, which are also very simple. And make sure you have this comma in here. Commas are very important. Like if you just put comma and end it, it's going to be an error. And like if you don't have anything after it, but if you're having something else after it, it's not an error. For example, if I have an age in here, I can have a value for that, then there's not an error. But if I don't have a comma here, you can see that it's just shouting like that red squiggly line, which means there's an error, expected comma, JSON 514. That says an error. You can put a comma in there, then that error goes away. So make sure you have the correct number of commas in your file. The next thing is booleans. Booleans is like true or false. So it's there in most of the programming languages. This in JSON is like true or false. For example, you can have a value of male and you can set it to true, and or you can set it to false. So right here you can create a key in here and set the value of true or false. So I'm male, so I'm setting it to true. So in this also, when we're using booleans, we don't use double quotes. Only with strings we use double quotes, and with booleans we don't use double quotes. But always remember that when we write the keys, which are the left side, which is the name of the property, then we'll need to have double quotes. Next, let's have a look at arrays, which is another data type. So till now we covered about strings, numbers, and booleans. So strings are just text, numbers are, well, numbers, and booleans are true or false. So you can even have false in here, that doesn't matter. So the next thing is arrays. Arrays are just like set of data. For example, you have one field, for example, frameworks that I know, and you could give multiple data for that. For example, I'm just going to show that to you now. So frameworks. You can just type in the name and hit enter in VS Code, so it'll just fill the codes for you. And you could put square brackets this time. So while we use arrays, make sure you use square brackets. It's only then the JSON understands it's an array. So you hit enter and you'll see that again VS Code does the indentation for you. So you can give a set of strings in here. For example, I know Express, I know React, I know a lot of them. Like there are a lot of frameworks, like JavaScript frameworks. You can just give a lot of set of data like this. So that's what this is. You can just keep going like that. You can have infinite number of data in an array. Like infinite means depends on the computer's speed and size, of course. But yeah, so an array it's just a set of data. It's a collection of a single data type. So you can't have numbers in here. You can't, like this won't tell you anything, but we're using a language like TypeScript, it's not going to work. So you'll have the same amount of, like same type of data in an array. An array is simply a collection of similar data types. So in here, I just created a frameworks array and I have Express, React, Next. You could have more in there. So that's what arrays are about. Just collections, like just multiple amount of data of the same data type. Next, let's have a look at objects. Well, this that we're seeing right now is itself an object. So a JSON file itself is an object, but we can have objects inside objects, like nested objects. So I'll just show an example of that right now. You could have a comment here. You could have maybe social links, and you could have colon. And for objects, again, remember, this is itself an object, so we use curly braces. Also in here, this is an object, so we're again using curly braces. And if it was an array, we would use square brackets. So hit enter. You could have different values in here, for example, LinkedIn, and you could put linkedin.com/and/. So you could put multiple links like that in here. So you could, for example, have a YouTube link. and you could have youtube.com/c/tech harvesting with Nasil. Okay, so you could do that also, and you could have multiple data in here. So just the thing is that it's like an object inside an object. I can show you another example of this in here. I can create a social.json file, and then I could have an object here with the same data. So I could just copy that and paste that in here. So what we're doing is that instead of putting this in a separate file, we're just putting everything, like this whole object. If we cut it from here, we can replace this whole curly brace, like that whole code block, with that thing which you copied from there, because it's just the same thing. Here we're just giving a label for it, just the key, and this is the value, and inside that key value pair, this is the key, this is the value, and again this is the key, and this is the value. So it's just a set of key value pairs inside key value pairs. That's what objects are.
So that was it for this video. We had a look at JSON, strings, numbers, booleans, objects, arrays, all this kind of good stuff. And thanks a lot for supporting me and subscribing. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!